Good afternoon, Destination Space News now. The time is 2:01. We are counting down to the Axiom-2 mission launch from right here on our Space Coast. Let's head out for a look at the rocket on the pad today. There is, let's get it up on the screen for you. 1 second. There it is. This is the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket at Kennedy Space Center, Launch Pad 39A. On top is the Crew Dragon, which will take 4 astronauts to the International Space Station for a brief stay. There's about 3.5 hours left until launch, so we got a busy afternoon. Consider this your pregame coverage before the Super Bowl, the main event. And let's head out to our space experts now, who are going to be quarterbacking this main event coverage for us. Our very own Greg Pallone and Will Robinson-Smith. Good afternoon, guys.
Hey, Asher, how you doing? Glad to be the QB, I guess, in this situation. But
always a good day on the gridiron.
Yeah. Let's score some touchdowns today. Very excited about this Axiom-2 mission, private crew mission to the International Space Station. Launch time set for 5:37 p.m. It is an instantaneous launch to the space station. This crew riding up on their SpaceX Crew Dragon, and they'll be donning their suits here in just a matter of minutes, as that is sort of the milestone for getting this mission underway. Of course, the crew has already arrived here on the Space Coast. They've been here now for quite some time. And again, 4-member crew, but just 2 Americans, Will.
Just 2 Americans and 2 Saudi Arabian government astronauts. So a new combination for Axiom, flying 2 private citizens and 2 professional astronauts from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So they're both very excited. They're going to be doing a lot of student outreach, 20 experiments between the 4 of them on tap, and a lot of excitement building for this. Only the 2nd private astronaut mission to the space station.
And it is exciting, too, to know that Peggy Whitson, who's commanding this mission, a veteran NASA astronaut, will be pretty much in control and guiding them through this private mission to the International Space Station. As you mentioned, Will, this is a 10-day mission. They have 20 research experiments, so a lot going on in that. They're going to cram that in that week and a half or so, so a lot happening. But again, as we mentioned, Peggy Whitson, she's a veteran, and it's good to know she's going to be in command.
A veteran, as you mentioned, a record holder. You know, just to remind folks who may have heard Peggy's name during the shuttle era, she holds the record for the most days in space at a stunning 665 in the total run of her mission as a NASA astronaut. Now flying for the first time as a private astronaut, she's going to notch 8 more on orbit, 1 up, 1 down, so another 10-day round trip for her to space.
Yeah, exciting. And Peggy is just one of those remarkable people, and as Will mentioned, setting that record, but also just a really good person and a good representative once she was with NASA, but now for this private mission. Let's hear from Peggy. We talked to her just a little while ago.
Axiom-2 mission is just a precursor for what we're headed to. We want to be able to have a commercial space station. We plan to have the first module up in late 2025, and that will expand our capability to do commercial space.
Yeah, and so you may be wondering, why is the space station opening up to private astronauts, to other government astronauts that are not flying formally with NASA? Well, you just heard it right there from Commander Peggy Whitson. Axiom is going to be creating its own private space station once the International Space Station is decommissioned around 2030. Axiom is one of 4 that has gotten some contract money from NASA to be able to develop its own station. Distinct, though, because it's the only one that's actually attaching its own modules to the ISS before it starts, operating on its own. So it's going to be a free-flying station, but for the first few years, it's going to be just basically an addition to the ISS.
Cohabitating with the ISS.
Exactly.
But again, this is sort of a dry run, a practice run for when Axiom actually gets this private commercial space station up and running. And really, we're seeing the future as NASA kind of getting out of the low Earth orbit business with the space station, going private. So these private entities, of course, wanting to be profitable at the same time, can go toward that situation. But again, this is laying the groundwork for eventually what will be the world's first private commercial space station. But again, the crew, including Commander Whitson, getting a chance to go up to the ISS and acclimate and get used to that and work in that situation.
Yeah, and she didn't just start training for the AX-2 mission. She was actually the backup commander for AX-1, which launched last year with Michael Lopez Alegria again, another very seasoned veteran of NASA leading that mission. And that's one thing that you're going to see a number of times as these go forward. NASA, as one of its criteria for these private astronaut missions, is that a former NASA astronaut has to be present as part of the crew. So you're going to be seeing some old familiar faces going back up to the station again and again. They're expecting to fly about 2 of these private astronaut missions each year. The next one we're looking at in November.
And we want to remind you, SpaceX, they're going to be landing their booster, not out on the drone ship. They're going to be landing at Landing Zone 1, next door at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. So that means a sonic boom is imminent at least roughly about 8 minutes or so after liftoff. So people out and about on a Sunday, perhaps watching the launch, perhaps mowing the lawn, perhaps whatever they're doing, they'll hear that sonic boom, and I'm sure we'll get all over social media. What was that boom? What was that boom?
Well, and as you were saying, there's a lot of people down at the beach right now because we got a boat show out
That's
there.
true. Thunder on Cocoa Beach taking place. About 100,000 people expected for that between yesterday and today. So they're going to get a treat too and be able to see this booster come back and land at Landing Zone 1. So that is just icing on the cake for a busy Sunday afternoon here on the Space Coast.
Absolutely, and a lot of excitement that we're going to be watching out here. Again, as Greg mentioned, in just a few minutes they're going to start donning their suits, getting ready to walk out at about 2:32 p.m. and getting their new black Teslas that SpaceX has been rolling out, shifting away from the white to the black. So a little bit something different than we've seen before, but always exciting.
Giving us some Knight Rider vibes here. We're wondering if Kit might show up, but yeah, that's pretty cool. It's really strange. We were here just a little while ago and we saw 3 black Teslas heading out to the pad. Not sure if they're doing a dry run. Not sure if the crew got anxious or not. But again, we're going to go by this timeline, not crime line. That's the other number that we use on the news. But we're going to go by the timeline there, and hopefully everything will hold pat for that. But again, everything looking good so far. As Will mentioned, they're going to be donning their suits, and then they'll go right out to the pad in the Teslas. Then they'll go up the elevator at pad 39A, and then they'll be able to get into their Crew Dragon capsule, getting ready for launch. So again, everything looking good right now for the 5:37 p.m. Again, Will, as we know, this is an instantaneous launch because it's heading to the space station, so it's one or done. But weather looking a little bit on the iffy side. We're standing at 60% right now.
Yeah, so on the favorable end of the spectrum, but certainly something to watch. Anvil clouds, those really thick ones that they can't fly through, is something that they're keeping a close eye on because, of course, we know that rockets can generate their own static electricity, and lighting is not something you want to have when you're talking about rocket launch, especially with people on board.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to go ahead and be here all afternoon for coverage. We'll keep you updated on the timeline and, of course, the weather as things progress toward the 5:37 p.m. launch. So for now, Will Robinson, I'm Greg Pallone, reporting live from the Kennedy Space Center.